These disturbing photos will make you glad history is just history. Whether it's caging babies, selling children, or electrocuting elephants, history has seen some scary times, and here are the pictures to prove it. As we've all been told, the eyes are the windows to the soul, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. Visual mediums, suffice to say, are mighty powerful. One photograph is able to capture an entire lifetime. A picture you know nothing about can move you to tears. Of course, some images don't always register without the proper historical annotations to put them in context. A picture of a man pouring liquid into a pool, while an odd sight, might not seem overly hateful until you take a closer look. A photo of a baby in a cage hanging off a building ledge might cause downright horror until you learn the reasoning behind it. And before you ask, no, those aren't hypotheticals. Here are 8 incredible historical photos that don't tell the whole story, but I will provide with the proper context you will need to understand their historical significance. Without further ado, close the blinds, dim those lights, cuddle under your favorite blanket, and let's begin. Number 1. The Strange Tale of the Baby Cage. When you think about it, caring for a child, the first thing to come to mind probably isn't put the baby in a cage. To be fair, though, you probably weren't a mother during the late 19th century. Around this time, the concept of airing your baby started showing up in parenting books. Airing was, well, exactly what it sounds like. The idea was introduced by pediatrician Luther Emmett Holt. In his 1894 book, The Care and Feeding of Children, he wrote, "Fresh air is required to renew and purify the blood, and this is just as necessary for health and growth as proper food. The appetite is improved, the digestion is better, the cheeks become red, and all the signs of health are seen. The child should be dressed with a bonnet and a light coat, as if for the street, and placed in its crib, or carriage, which should stand a few feet from the window. All the windows are then thrown wide open, but the doors closed to prevent drafts. Screens are unnecessary." Somehow, that turned into this. The belief was that babies exposed to cold, the temperature, would help boost their immunity to colds, the kind that make your nose run, to be clear. That was, of course, ridiculous, but it wasn't Holt's worst idea. The pediatrician also argued in favor of eugenics by birth, not by death, which is slightly better than the alternative. He also told parents that babies under 6 months should never be played with, since playtime would cause infants to become nervous and irritable, causing them to sleep badly and to suffer from indigestion. Number 2. The St. Augustine Pool Picture. On June 18, 1964, Martin Luther King Jr. and 2 associates planned a swim-in for the whites-only pool at Munson Motor Lodge in St. Augustine, Florida. In an attempt to intimidate the protesters and force them out, The owner of the hotel, James Brock, poured hydrochloric acid into the water, shouting, "I'm cleaning the pool." Protesters J.T. Johnson and Al Lingo spoke to NPR in 2014 about the experience, and they remember Brock losing it. Quote, "The girls, they were most frightened, and we moved to the center of the pool," Lingo recalled. "I tried to calm the gang down," Johnson said. "I knew that there was too much water for the acid to do anything. When they dragged us out in bathing suits and they carried us out to the jail, they wouldn't feed me because they said I didn't have on any clothes. I said, well, that's the way you locked me up. But all of the news media were there because somehow, I guess they gotten word that something was going to happen at the pool that day. And I think that's when the president, Lyndon B. Johnson, got the message." The hostility of Brock's act, captured on film, was a milestone. The Civil Rights Act was approved the next day, after an 83-day filibuster in the U.S. Senate. While the St. Augustine pool protest was one of many moments that contributed to the law's passage, it was one of the most gripping visual displays of the horrors of segregation. Number 3. Kids for sale. When you first see this picture, you might be inclined to laugh. I mean, it looks like a joke, right? Unfortunately, it isn't a joke. This photo, taken in 1948, shows a real Chicago mother selling her children. The woman, Lucille Charlefoix, had been recently evicted from her apartment, and her husband, Ray, had lost his job as a coal truck driver. In 2013, the New York Post reported on the fate of the children. Quote, "Lana, top left, was likely adopted and died of cancer in 1998. Rayanne, top right, was sold for $2 along with her brother Milton, bottom left, to an abusive family. Sue Ellen, bottom right, was adopted. David, inside Mother Lucille Charlefoix's womb in this picture, was adopted as well. Quote, Lucille would have 4 more daughters. She kept them. She didn't keep us, David says. Sue Ellen, who was 2 years old when the picture was taken in Chicago, died of lung disease in 2013. A few months before her death, she gave an interview writing her responses. Of her birth mother, she wrote, quote, "She needs to be burning in hell." I'd love to tell you that this article gets less depressing from this point on, but we're about to talk about electrocuted elephants, and I'm serious. Number 4. The elephant electrocution. Remember that time Thomas Edison elected to electrocute an innocent animal to make a point? I didn't either, so don't feel bad. It's not the sort of thing that they teach you in school, mainly because it's not true. At this point, some internet writer started the rumor that Thomas Edison electrocuted an elephant named Topsy in an attempt to discredit alternating current. Edison was in a vicious battle with his rival, Tesla, whose Westinghouse AC electrical system competed directly with Edison's direct current system. Was Edison really involved? Well, according to the Thomas A. Edison Papers Project, a research center at the Rutgers School of Arts and Sciences, the answer is an emphatic no. Topsy the elephant was electrocuted publicly at Luna Park on Coney Island, January 1903, and her death was certainly cruel. She was instructed to lift each foot into a copper sandal to facilitate the electrocution, which the SPCA approved at the time, since electrocution was seen as a humane form of execution. Edison is not mentioned in any of the numerous newspaper accounts of the killing of Topsy. The Ruggers page reads, quote, "Nor is there any evidence that the officials of Luna Park, the SPCA, or the Brooklyn Illuminating Company consulted him on the case. It is also unlikely that he was personally involved in producing the film Electrocuting an Elephant, even though the title bears his name. Although he was the president of the Edison Manufacturing Company, which, among other things, oversaw the film company, day-to-day operations were in the hands of the vice president and general manager William E. Gilmore. Edison's company did electrocute an elephant, but Topsy wasn't a random elephant either. She previously injured a specter at a circus event, which prompted her owners to have her euthanized. It's a sad, strange story, but it's not a great example of Thomas Edison acting like an evil genius. Number 5. The Budapest Smile Club. Alright, so this picture already looks like something out of a Quentin Tarantino movie. But what is actually going on? Apparently, after World War I, Budapest, Hungary was in the throes of a suicide epidemic. In a clear case of faulty reasoning, the media, apparently, attributed some of these to a popular song, Gloomy Sunday. In October 1937, the Sunday Times Perth explained how some folks were choosing to combat the problem. Quote, "Now, however, a smile club has been inaugurated to counteract the suicide craze. It was originally begun more as a joke by Professor Gino and a hypnoticist named Benzinko. But somehow it caught on. The organizers have now a regular school and guaranteed to teach the Roosevelt smile, the Mona Lisa smile, the Clark Gable smile, the Dick Powell smile, the Loretta Young smile, and various other types, the rates varying according to the difficulties encountered. The founder also had a supervillain level goal. Quote, Gino says the methods employed at his school, aided by better business conditions in Budapest, are making smiling popular, and before long, it is hoped that the name of Budapest will be changed to the City of Smiles. Now, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say, if your city is called the City of Smiles, you're living in a horror film. Unfortunately, there's a limited documentation to support this story. The Dutch illustrated magazine, Het Leven, ran photos of the Smile Club's effort in 1937, but the paper also ran a number of sensationalized articles. The Smile Club might have been just a hoax, and even if it was a real movement, it probably wasn't extremely popular. Number 6. The Gas Mask Mommy. During World War II, the Germans let loose on Britain throughout the 1940 and 1941 campaign, dubbed the Blitz, German for lightning. Britain was bombed relentlessly by Germany, an affair that went on for 8 months, killing 43,000 civilians. In anticipation of German planes dropping gas bombs, British officials handed out millions of gas masks to their citizens. The Women's Voluntary Services for Air Raid Precautions, known as WVS, trained civilians to use the 40 million gas masks the government produced, size for all ages. That leaves us with plenty of gas mask photos to share in the terror of the times. Children wear gas masks as they played at the park. A dancer struts down the streets wearing a helmet and her gas mask. Families shop in them, and a mother walks her baby in a gas-proof stroller wearing, you guessed it, her own gas mask. Eerie, but we all know how the story ends. Number 7. Send in the clowns, or don't. If you think today's clowns are creepy, the picture below may be too much. If you can handle some heebie-jeebies, you'll see that the creepiest clowns live not now, but in black and white images from nearly a century ago. Listed in the link below is a video to kind of further explain the creepiness. Number 8. Moko Makia and Some Guy. British Major General Hiroto Gordon, 1840 to 1930, probably wouldn't have posed for this photo if he could have guessed how we react generations later. And that's him in the foreground, the one with a body. But it's not what it looks like. Anyway, it was an age of imperialism, and it wouldn't be fair to judge the guy based on today's ethical standards. Here are the facts. Gordon, the 19th century soldier/artist, served in New Zealand in the 19th century. He spent his downtime getting to know the indigenous Maori people. Specifically, he was fascinated by moko, the sacred face tattoos that denote high rank among the islanders. Those faces behind Gordon in that photo are actually moko makia, the sacred preserved heads of the Maori elite. Gordon collected them. Lots of Europeans did back then. Never mind that their creators venerated the heads and kept them ceremonially locked away, except during powerful religious or political rites. Today, many of the displaced moko makia are being given back to the Maori communities. Despite what Indiana Jones might say, we're realizing they don't belong in a museum. Alright, my lovely lilies, thank you so much for watching the new video. If you can, hit that subscribe and like button, comment below and tell me your thoughts. Also, don't forget to tap the little notification bell so you're always in the know on this channel. As well, guys, you can always find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and always you can hit me up in my emails. Feel free to send me your stories, whether they're fiction or totally true. I'm always up for some great stories. And oh, by the way, until next time, sweet dreams.